when
Mm-hmm.
we think about the contributions of Black men and women, those who don't identify with either gender. But
Mm-hmm.
like this idea that even 40 years ago, 50 years ago, in this time where everybody talks about, the Vietnam War and the Americans who fought, the Americans that fought, most of the way that's depicted are the white Americans who fought.
Yeah.
And a lot of the vets of color are completely neglected from that conversation. So
Correct.
here you have this story of four men, five if you include the squad leader that is a part of the narrative of the story, and I don't want to give too much away, but that you have these men who very much had the same amount of patriotism, the same amount of love for country, the same amount of desire for duty that
Yeah.
all these other people have, but they just didn't get a chance to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can talk a little bit about your connection to that story, this idea that Spike is using this film as a history lesson, as he does time and time again.
Yeah, you brought up a phrase, a word there, patriotism, and that they had the same amount of patriotism um, as their white counterparts. And this is not a matter of quantity at all, but I would hazard to say that they had a bit more patriotism, because you have to understand, like, it's we well, you they have enough patriotism for their country, right? For the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. that they're living in, right? But then, as every Black person knows in America, we also live in another America. Meek Mill has a song called "The Other Side of America," which I've been banging, and we occupy that space, right? That is where we live, right? That is the ghetto that the patriarchy has placed us in, right? The cheat sheet is that in order for us to survive, right, we have to move between both of those spaces. You have to be in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Texas boy who went to Yale University. You know what I'm saying? So I transitioned from the projects, the country, Ivy League, New York, LA, back down home, etc. You know what I'm saying? We
Yeah.
move through that. So the amount of energy, right? Let's just think of patriotism as energy. The amount of energy it takes to not only fight for your country, but then to fight for your other country. That's a great deal. So I'll say humbly, these brothers have let's just say, a different type of patriotism. Um, um, yeah, it's not a choice. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's a duty, for the
Yeah.
survival of yeah, it's deep, man. And I also say, and I think one of the reasons I get so impassioned about it is because I am the grandson and son of uh, war veterans. My father was in the Air Force and was in Desert Storm. My maternal grandfather was in both the Vietnam War and the Korean War, and my in the Army. And then my paternal grandfather was in World War II in the Navy.
Wow.
So it's ancestral. It's in my DNA in a way, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
I mean,
what about
I can only imagine being on set and feeling all those emotions of your ancestors kind of
yeah,
with you along the way, knowing that it might not have been that exact same land that they walked on all
right?
those years ago, but they were essentially um, doing the kind of tasks that thankfully you and I do not have to worry about doing at this moment.
Correct, correct, correct. And what Spike has done is he's brought that to the screen, and because of events and the way things have gone and the way the business of things are in the entertainment industry, this film has landed on the magnificent platform of Netflix. So, Broadway, forget about it. That's impossible, right? You can't see this. That's impossible. No one can pay for the ticket, especially the people that
Mm-hmm.
need to see it can pay for the ticket. You know, movie theaters at the time, it's kind of out of the question. And it's not a television series. It's a movie that is streaming on, the most powerful streaming platform in the world, since the creation of the world. Um, what a haymaker! What a hell yeah! And the
Mm-hmm.
story is about something that something that we something that some people know instinctually, ancestrally. You know what I'm saying? Some people socially, they've seen it. There's white folks that understand Black lives. You know, they do exist. They are out there. I will say they are a very, very, very small minority. You know, in my opinion and in my upbringing. That's my opinion. That's been my experience. Um, but this film shows it. It shows it. There's no longer there's no longer an excuse, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
there, right? It's on Netflix, and what the depth that Spike goes into, and the depth that the characters in the film go into, to share the humanity of war, right, and the inhumanity of war, and the duplicity of war. You know, the fact that these men are fighting multiple wars while at war. They're fighting for the U.S. Army. They're fighting against the other white troops in the Army, right? And they're also fighting a mental battle where they look at someone that looks more like them than their counterparts. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Ali quote is great. You know, ain't none of them ever called me nigga. You know what I'm saying? That is such a real thing. You know, that's such a real thing. And now the movie's dropping at this point now in time. Um, you know, and I mean, you know, it's deep, man. We're both Texans, right? And you
Yep.
know, George Floyd was a Texan. They put him to rest in Houston. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the whole issue happened, the murder happened in Minneapolis.
But he's from
And
Houston.
he
Mm-hmm.
and his family, you know, he got put to rest in Houston, and you know that's
It's like
deep.
I don't know if you I can only imagine because I feel like this is very much the Texas way, but a lot of us grow up with that spiritual aspect behind us.
Oh yeah.
And I'm curious if you think that there is something at play here cosmically that this film is coming out when it's coming out because of the national conversation that's being had.
Listen, bro. Amen. Like my mother's a pastor. You know what I'm saying? I believe I believe there is something, there is someone, there is a power that has a way of making shit work down here. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's awful. You know, sometimes we don't understand it. But right now there is, if unless you are a blind coward fool, you have got to see the plan. You have got to see what's happening. You know what I'm saying? You can say the plan is coming from who or whatever, right? But you've
Yeah.
got to see that this shit is set up. You know what I'm saying? I'll just speak for myself. The Lord is laying things out in such a way where it becomes undeniable, right? It becomes undeniable. And that's what we need. You know what I'm saying? That's what we as a species, Homo sapiens, Americans need, right? We'll all, they'll try to cheat you. You know what I'm saying? The
Mm-hmm.
patriarchy try to cheat you. Every time it gets bad for them, they cheat it, right? There's a bailout. You got to take your ass whooping, right? And right now, the ass whooping is coming down from on high with such vengeance, right? And with such grace that it is unavoidable, you know? So it's on. You know,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's booted up. You know, everybody's ready to go, you know, and Spike Lee is giving us some great ammunition, you know, to fight the fight. You feel me?
Yeah.